this evening, we do have the Director of Popular Conservatives, Mark Littlewood. We've got landlord and activist Adam Brooks and broadcaster and journalist Nina Mishkov. I'll start with you, Mark, on this. I mean, what on earth is that Labour MP talking about? Racial tropes being used to stir up stuff about Chris Kaba. I mean, the guy's criminal record is not a racial trope, it's on paper. It's
a fact, and as I've said several times on your programme, Patrick, facts cannot be racist. They are facts. All sorts of things went wrong in this case, not the police officer who fired the gun, but the fact that he was charged. This ludicrous idea that a community is traumatised. Why? I mean, we have gone through justice too diligently, in my mind, should never have been brought to court at all, this case. Absolutely extraordinary. The grounds for trauma are utterly trivial. And another error was, I think, that Kaba's criminal record should have been basically released into the public domain as soon as he was dead. His family, I understand, were taking endless efforts to try and stop it entering the domain at all. So I think some who just sort of walk into the trap of wokery were tricked. They just sort of assumed, here's an innocent guy, he's black, the police officer was white, as I understand it, something terrible has happened here. Had they actually been informed, and that information had been raised earlier, not that gangsters deserve, summary execution, but at least bring some context to what actually occurred.
Well, it's vital context as to why the police were there as well.
A complete explanation.
Well, actually, a total explanation, yeah. Adam, when it says that, so we've dealt with a bit of Labour MP there, but the BBC is another one now, leaves a community traumatised.
That is utter nonsense and really quite ridiculous. I have many black friends, ranging from community youth workers to people that have spent time in prison. None of them are traumatised. This article to say that community leaders are traumatised, maybe they should be more traumatised about the two people that were killed at the Notting Hill Carnival. Innocent people died there. There was no protest from these white liberal wallies that night or the night after. Gang culture in London is a big problem. And as Mark said, facts cannot be racist. And maybe some of these community leaders might want to address why 78% of gang members in London are black and why I believe it's 61% of knife murderers are black. Now, this is disproportionate, and you cannot be racist for pointing out facts. This is a tragedy. No one really deserves to die. He hasn't killed anyone. Yes, he shot at people. I would obviously rather that he did not die.
Yeah.
And I feel for his mum. No mum should have to bury their son. And I feel sorry for his friends and his family. He shouldn't have died. But he put himself in a position where he was attacking officers with a weapon, which is a 2-ton Audi car.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, look, I would be inclined to agree with that. Nina, what about the community that's been traumatised by people like Chris Kaba?
Well, first of all, I find it extraordinary that you would claim that a community has not been traumatised when you are not of that community, nor have you gone and talked to people of that community. You may well have black friends, but do they live in that specific community? So it's very...
He was a known gangster, Nina.
I understand that.
That preyed on other black people in that community.
I understand that. That's not what we're discussing.
Right.
Kaba was obviously not someone that you would actually want to associate with in any way. Right? So and revolting. I hate all that drill stuff. I hate all of that. He did not deserve to die. Nobody deserves to die. We understand that. I am not supporting him, his lifestyle, or any of his gang members.
But do you honestly think the community is grieving for his loss?
I think that they probably are. Why would you disbelieve a report?
Well,
one man.
Based on one man.
Because the BBC headline made it seem as though they'd spoken to... I mean, funnily enough, to be fair, Nina, I get what you're saying, but the BBC also had not gone and actually spoken to people in that community. They'd spoken to one bloke.
Well, I think they spoke to more than one bloke. They certainly did. And you can't... And the community... every community looks after its own. And whether we agree with the lifestyle or not, then that is what...
No disrespect. I would not grieve for someone in my area that is a known gangster that had terrorised people in my... So I would not be traumatised. You cannot say...
The real question here is almost, I guess, whether we should care about the trauma. When Pablo Escobar, the Colombian billionaire drugs baron, was shot dead, lots of people in his network suffered trauma. I mean, they lost their jobs, they lost their livelihoods. I mean, the guy was a wrong 'un far and way beyond what Kaba is, and people were traumatised. My problem with the BBC coverage is that trauma is, if you like, in some ways illegitimate. It shouldn't be engaged with. I mean, you know, his family, for sure.
It's purely one. It's one report about one.
You've got Labour MP, your Labour mayor likes Sadiq Khan. You got coming out to bat for Chris Kaba immediately. You had Jeremy Corbyn doing the old solidarity.
Nobody cares about Jeremy Corbyn.
Well, I'm sorry, but you can't say that because actually
he's a member of Parliament.
Loads of people.
He's got a big following.
I agree with you, they shouldn't. But loads of people really do. I mean, he was very close to becoming Prime Minister at one point. You've got all of those people. You've got that lady in the House of Commons today talking about it. You've got Kim Johnson. You've got the local MP for the area saying he's supporting the family and all of this. Well, hang on a minute. What about what about the people he traumatised?
Look, let's talk about this concentration on one report by the BBC. There are many reports.
Name another report then. Name another report
that's the whole thing. If you look at every broadcast they've got, they've got a different
Does it not stoke racial tensions? Does it not
they're not stoking. They're not stoking racial. They are not. Look, this is all in the background of, say, the Met, which has been institutionally racist. There was a report only 18 months ago, Baroness Casey, where it was stated, and the Met have accepted, it's because it's on the Metropolitan website, that they're institutionally racist, that they are. So therefore, the community that we're talking about has no faith in the police, and which is why when something like
that's
happens...
a different problem.
No, it's not a different problem. It is not a different problem. When it happens, when something like that happens, that causes far more tension and therefore trauma.
The question that needs to be put out there, and I'm surprised not many people are talking about it. If Chris Kaba was white and he was in a car that was known for firearm offences the night before and linked, would he have been shot that night? I am 100% certain if I acted that way in a car that was flagged, I would have been shot also. Yeah. Now, also...
That's not the point. That's not what we're talking about.
That is completely the point.
It is not completely the point.
That is completely the point of the argument. Now, this officer...
You don't know what the point of my argument is because you haven't given me a chance to speak. Right. OK, well, fine. Go ahead.
So this officer, I believe, has 8 years unblemished service as well.
Yeah.
It's not as if the police are just going around shooting people willy-nilly in London. In England and Wales, I believe there's only been, I think it's 80 people shot by the police over the last 40 years. This is not America. This isn't happening weekly.
Correct, yeah.
This is very rare. Now, again, I'm sorry someone has lost their life, but this man did his job.
It's a bigger worry than that, I'd say.
Obviously, I can't just say anything. I've hardly said a word. I'm sitting here waiting to talk, and nobody lets me talk.
You've had more time than the two of us.
Oh, we'll play that back and let you see.
Let's just get Mark, then I'll get you off the final word.
If you are worried about institutional racism in the police force, and I don't think that should be hand-waved away, but I think we can say with certainty this is not an example of it in any way, size, shape or form. And to listen to some of the lunatic campaigners here, you might have been given the impression that a wholly innocent black guy had been shot dead by a white racist police officer. That's the general meme that was being put out. Completely untrue. Institutional racism does not apply to this case at all.
When you get, Leader, final word for you on this. When you get people like that Labour MP and you get, the rapper who was on Sky News talking, the rapper certainly said about the execution, right? Labour MP making it sound as though this guy was murdered. There's a police officer with a £10,000 bounty on his head at the moment. They're not endangering his life.
They are endangering his life, and everything we discuss endangers his life. And the fact that his life is endangered was, in the first place, was because they gave his name out. I am all with Yvette Cooper, and the government has moved very quickly to change that situation so they can remain anonymous. I'm talking about institutional racism as a background, as a backdrop to why a community would be traumatised when they fear the police, they don't trust the police, and the policing should be by consent, and it's not. And so, therefore, when this happens, that equates to trauma, and that's my point, which is what we're discussing.
All right, OK, all right. Look, all of you, thank you very, very much. I don't know whether or not people might have been traumatised by some of the things that we've heard so far tonight, but there we go.